Let me say yeah. Let me say yeah.
We are back up here in the cheap seats. We are 2 games into the Stanley Cup Finals. I got, as usual, my co-host Jimmy Ward. Jimmy, how are you, buddy?
I'm tired, but I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Um, Wife's out of town, so I had all the kids tonight. So, although it
so
was a good
you're
night,
uh,
though.
you're just wrangling tonight, eh? Wrangling all the kids.
Yeah, yeah. I still got to get after this. I gotta edit this and then make lunches and finish some laundry, and
Just do
so
what
I'll get
my
to bed
dad
about.
used to do, man. Just give them $5 each. They're good.
I ordered pizza, so we're just gonna throw it in the tin foil and shove it in the backpack.
Nice. And
So,
back by popular demand. We had some big guests the last 2 episodes, and unfortunately, Nick was not able to join us for those, but he's back. He's back to discuss this Stanley Cup Finals with us. Nick Nosebleed is in the house tonight. He's up here in the cheap seats, sitting with us. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you, Phil. I just want to say the last two guests you had are far exceed my abilities on the show. So more Kyle and the other Nick, the good Nick.
oh,
Yeah, those
we
guys,
we got a
those
we got a couple good nicks here. Come on,
yeah, those
we
guys
we
definitely sit
appreciate
in
Nick.
the those guys definitely sit
Sit in the
in the
lower.
rich section. Yeah, lower bowl down there.
Yeah,
Down
a
down with
a lot of
Brogy, hey?
experience there. Oh yeah, down with Rogue. Yeah, we appreciate Nick you using your only phone call for the day out of witness protection to join us. So
Anytime.
that's great. Yeah. Philly, how
Okay,
are you?
so doing okay, doing okay. Had a bit of a rough one yesterday. The One of the cats got ran over here on the acreage, and so little sad around here. The boys were a little upset about that, but that's acreage living, and here we are. It's raining again, so probably gonna have that shady internet again. So apologize in advance. Bear with us. Like I said, send in the check if you want for me to get some Starlink set up out here, and should be better. So other than
Yeah, we
that,
should
doing
have
pretty
checked.
good.
Awesome. Let's roll. Let's
Yeah.
rock and roll
Had
here.
had
Game.
had a By the way, had a ball hockey game tonight. Just couple brawls, couple like lots of penalty minutes, fun like that. So
Just the Florida Panthers over there, eh?
exactly. Yeah. Speaking of brawls, yeah, 2 games into the Stanley Cup Finals, and Nick hasn't had any airtime in the last week here. So initial thoughts on how this series is kind of aiming. Like you had the Oilers winning this thing in 6, Nick. What's going on here?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I still don't think that prediction is out of the realm of possibility. If the Oilers can play like they did in the first two periods of Game One, and just coming up here tomorrow night, I think they're going to put themselves in a chance to win a game. But I mean, for me, the number one thing that Florida's done really well has been Bobrovsky. He's been outstanding. The back home goal aside, which wasn't great. I mean, he stopped whatever, like 50 of 51 or something in this series. Like he's been outstanding. And I think the thing that's impressed me the most has just been the mature game that Florida plays. Um, you know, they're a very, they're a very hardworking team. They put they sticks in passing lanes all the time, bodies in shooting lanes. They've blocked a ton of shots. They win every 50-50 puck battle. It seems like they win every 50-50 puck race, even though they're not the faster of the two teams. Face-offs, they're 57% in the series, which is huge. And their penalty kill has been really impressive. Their penalty kill to me is it's interesting because they look passive and they defend them between the dots really well. And then so they're forcing the Oilers to kind of get lulled and pass the puck around. But as soon as there's a chance for a 50-50 puck, the Panthers are on it. They're boxing the player out, and the puck's out of the zone. It happened late in the third period the other night. It was McDavid was along the left side or the left boards, and somebody just jumped right on him, boxed him out, took the puck down the ice. And for all the talk of the Oilers and how their top guys have to get going, the Panthers have scored 7 goals in the series, and only one came from their top guys. Rodriguez has 3, Luosterainen has 1, and then Mikkola and Ekblad both have empty net goals. But Verhaeghe's the only guy out of their top 5 or 6 forwards that has a goal. So for me, that's just they've been very opportunistic. Their forecheck's been outstanding, and I've been really impressed with Florida, and I think Edmonton's going to get a boost of energy coming home. They're saying all the right things, so now it's time for them to prove that they believe in what they're saying going forward here.
Yeah, and I just keep going back to and Jimmy, you can speak on this one about how the Florida Panthers shut down the New York Rangers top guys in the semifinals. Are they doing the same thing to the Oilers top guys?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was showing. I was watching the game with Rosie, and she was just utterly frustrated. She's like, we can't do anything. And this is sort of like game 2. She's like, we can't. Geez, we got to get going. Why aren't we doing anything? I'm like, trust me, they're trying. Like, I know a lot of Oiler fans are like, this guy's got to get going, and this guy's got to get going, and McDavid's got to do something. They are trying. It's not a lack of try or will or work or making plays. It's just like Nick Zerara said last episode. It's a death by 1,000 cuts, and that's what they do. They slowly just suffocate you, and they drag you into this sort of alley type game, and all of a sudden you're looking at the stat sheet after and go, how do we have no high danger chances at 5-on-5? They had one at even strength. It came at 4-on-4. I mean, mind you, they had some chances. They hit some posts. Like, the game's a little bit different. Maybe some of those go bar down or bar in, but the Panthers also hit posts. And it's not like the Panther stars are offensively producing, like Nick said, right? Like, Barkov hasn't scored yet. Reinhardt hasn't scored yet. Kachuk hasn't got on the board. Verhaeghe's the only guy. Well, I guess Verhaeghe and Rodriguez in the top 6 that have got goals. Like, you see a guy on the second line that stepped up, right, and has scored. If you look at the Oilers' second line, you're looking down the barrel at Holloway, and Kane's banged up. Like, he's almost a non-factor at this point. Fogle was up on that second line, but he ends up getting the boot on the 5-minute major. And then on the back end, like you said, like Mikkola scores a huge goal after almost scoring in his own net. He goes back down the other way, and he picks up the goal. I believe that was the one that tied the game, wasn't it? And then I think Rodriguez took the lead on an unfortunate giveaway by Bouchard. And I'm going to defend Bouchard here for a second, because I think the play that he made was right if he just elevates the puck, because it comes to him in the slot and he can't sit there with it. Otherwise, they're going to jump on him for a turnover. His D partners, everyone's so jammed up, so he can't even reverse to his D partner because he's in the slot. His only move, really what he should have done, was just maybe aerialed it out or rifled it, bank off the boards and out. Instead, he tries to make a tape-to-tape pass. Goes right to Rodriguez.
That happens literally like 6 times in my Div 12 ball hockey games. Like,
yeah, well, we're in the Cup final, Phil, so a little bit of a different story.
Saying. Like, come on, get it up.
I think if you look at the series as a whole, the analytical numbers are fairly tight. But the issue is that the Oilers really missed an opportunity where they caught the Panthers on an off night in game 1, and they weren't able to win that game. And I had kind of said, to a few friends after, I said, I don't think Florida's going to be that bad again. And sure enough, in game 2, they were exquisite away from the puck. Like, the Oilers had their chances. They flew through the zone. They had some possession time, but a lot of it was on the outside. Bobrovsky had a fairly quiet night, and Florida got the job done. The challenge now for Florida is going to be obviously going to Edmonton. It's a very loud building. It's a hostile place, but It was like we were talking off camera. Nick said, Kachuk was on I think it was Pat McAfee. Was that right?
Yeah.
And he said it's 20 guys versus an entire city. So they love this stuff. They love the skirmishes. They love the after stuff. They love the physicality. They love the hatred. They get this like weird sick energy off of it. And they're going in. They're going to play a road game. They have to survive the first 10 minutes. That's
Yep.
what I'll say. Like they can't go down. Like the Oilers can't score 2 goals in the first 7 minutes. Otherwise, they're going to be in some serious trouble. They can weather the first 10. I truly believe they'll settle in, and then it's going to come down to who can execute. And special teams. I talked about being a key in this series, and so far neither team has really been able to grab the advantage. And the even strength play benefits the Florida Panthers, to be honest. So that's where we're at.
Just further to the even strength play, and just you were talking about guys that that where they've been kind of the Rangers were kind of shut out. So I looked this up. So Kucherov, Pasternak, Panarin, and Zibanejad all got blanked by the Panthers at 5-on-5 in the playoffs this year. So it's not like McDavid and Draisaitl not being able to get stuff done on 5-on-5 is new for this Panther team. They've shut down pretty good players already. And building wise, just because you talked about the building, I mean, Florida's coming in here and they've got experience. They had to play in Boston this year. They had to play in MSG this year in the playoffs. And last year, let's be honest, Vegas is a whole spectacle of a show itself. And they had to play those guys in the Stanley Cup final last year. Like, I don't think Florida's going to come in here and be intimidated by the fan base. I think they're coming in here with one job. They know what they have to do. And I don't think they're really going to care that much about how loud the building is.
But I think you're right. I think drawing back on that last experience, like, to be honest, they limped into the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
Kachuk, shoulder issue. Bobrovsky was dead. I mean, he had willed them towards that. They weren't nearly as good of a team last year as they were this year. I think they also see how hard it is to get there, and you're up 2-0, and I think there's going to be a sense of desperation to get 3. I don't think they want to go back to Florida in a best of 2 out of 3 with the Oilers now having momentum. And for Edmonton, well, they're accustomed to putting themselves in really bad situations and having to dig themselves out. You look at the bad stretch at the regular season. You look at 2-1 versus Dallas and being down 2-0 in Game 4 and roaring back. The 2 elimination games against Vancouver. So, I mean, I don't think either team it's just going to come down to will and execution. It's who's going to want it more, and who's less banged up, because you got some banged up guys on both sides. I truly believe, and usually in the Cup final around Game 4 or 5, I feel like the better team starts to pull away, and we'll see if that's the case. But the Oilers, I mean, this is about as must win as it gets. You lose Game 3 and I just don't see you winning 4 in a row, especially after such a long, grueling, and it's mentally taxing to look at the mountain and be like, oh my gosh, like we got to do this 4 times.
Yeah.
But 2-1 looks a lot better. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I was going to say, just like what you just said, like this is obviously a must win for the Oilers. So what's the game plan for the Oilers, Nick, coming into this game tomorrow night?
I mean, for me, they got to ignore the pressure that's on them. They got to be able to keep their composure. You saw the last 8 or 9 minutes of Game 2. They were clearly frustrated. I mean, Carrick obviously got fined for, giving was it Kulikov the slash to the gentlemanly area. They got to start attacking between the dots. Florida's done a really good job of defending the middle of the ice in their own zone. Edmonton's gotta get guys to the front of the net and just try and get some sort of traffic in front of Bobrovsky, because if there's shots from distance or from wide that he's seeing, they're not scoring on him. Like, sorry, it ain't happening. And when they have the opportunity, they have to elevate the puck. Like, they've had breakaways in this series. Not one puck has been off the ice. Puck's got to get up. They got to use their speed like they did early in game one. And they do have to take advantage of their opportunities when Florida does overcommit. Like the goal the Ekholm goal was Florida. It was 4-on-4, and Florida had 3 guys commit down low. McDavid makes the nice hook pass up to Ekholm. They break out 2-on-1 and they score. They got to take advantage of those opportunities because Florida doesn't make a lot of mistakes. But when they do, you have to make them pay. And that's really that's how they're going to have to score. They're going to have to figure out a way to grind out some greasy goals. And it's going to have to come from guys that maybe, you got to look at that, the third and fourth line and just think like those guys just got to get some pucks to the net and just go to the net. Like just figure something out because they're not doing enough of that. Finessing the puck isn't going to work in this series, especially 5-on-5. You got to get between the dots. You got to battle. You got to battle in front of the net. That's what Florida does. Like, there's always seems to be some sort of scramble low in the offensive zone. Give them a taste of their own medicine. Just try and do something. They got big bodies up front, so there's no excuse for me.
Well,
Yeah,
you look
and
at the goal.
that first 10 minutes is like Jimmy said is so important for the Oilers tomorrow night. So use that building, use that momentum, and get on the Panthers like right away. And like Jimmy said, if they can get 2 quick goals,
They're like a snowball coming down the hill when they get going, and you got to slow it down. So they got to survive the 10 for sure. If you look at the goals, like touch on what Nick said, you look at the goals the Panthers have scored. Obviously, the Rodriguez one was a giveaway, but Rodriguez goes to the net at the tail end of a power play deflection in. The Verhaeghe one, backdoor driving to the net. You look at Mikkola, drop pass, 2 guys go to the net. So by those 2 guys going to the net, it backs the D up, right? Allows them to take a quick shot because he beats F3 up the ice. Trying to think of what the other one, and then obviously there was a couple empty net. If you look at the back at the Rangers series, Wenberg scores an overtime goal. Lindgren gets the puck, wastes no time, whips it towards the net. It's deflection in. Barclay Goodrow, it's a pass across. He shoots from not really a particularly high danger shot, but he gets the shot off quick and high, right? So I think what the Oilers are doing a lot of times is they're really good at possessing the puck and delaying and waiting for those passing lanes. But it was like I said before, the Rangers D were amazing at being able to, they did this all season. They would get the puck, they delay that extra half second, and then they would move it. Florida just runs through you when you do that. They run through you, and then they bring down 2 more guys in support. So they move as a unit of 5. It's actually quite incredible to watch. So for the Oilers, attack with speed, shoot quickly. I think a lot of their shots, they're getting that look and they want to pinpoint, pick that top corner or whatever. Just shoot the puck quickly before Bobrovsky can get set, right? And what that also does is it creates rebounds. And when you create rebounds, the other team has to scramble out of that sort of support system in order, and it also creates them having to communicate who's going to get the puck, and then everyone has to reset. The Oilers are great when you delay your assignments because they're so talented that they'll torch you. That's why I said in game 1, I talked about I thought game 1 the Oilers were going to win because there was an 8-day layoff and I felt like puck management was going to be an issue with rust, and it was. Florida didn't manage the puck well at all, and the Oilers should have won that game, but Bobrovsky said no. And so I think the adjustment for the Oilers is going to be attack with speed and shoot quickly. Like a lot of one-timers, even if they look like low percentage chances, and then win the race to the puck. That's if they don't do those things, I don't see them coming out with a win.
Yeah, and you mentioned Jimmy too about bringing this game to the alley, right? And we saw a lot of that in the last game with the Draisaitl questionable hit, the full goal. Kind of, I don't know, like you have an opinion on that major penalty too. You can touch on that if you want, but even like Nick said with the old can opener from Carrick, who does that game benefit?
Nick, you want that one?
Sure. I mean, to me, that benefits Florida because the Panthers will sit back and say, we are living rent-free between these guys' ears right now, which is right where they want them because like Jimmy said, when Edmonton's using their speed and their skill, they are very, very difficult to beat. But as soon as you have them off, as soon as they've lost their composure, they're not focused on hockey anymore. And that's advantage Florida 100%. So like I said, about the Oilers, they got to ignore the pressure, but they have to keep their composure. They have to focus on what's going to make them successful, and not they got to try. It's hard, but you got to try and ignore, the Kachucks and the Bennetts, and if those guys are in your ears or whatever, you got to kind of leave it, and you got to focus on what makes you successful, because all you're doing is just helping Florida in that situation when you're getting into that kind of stuff, especially when you're behind, when you're down 2-0. Now you really have to forget about that stuff, because I mean, like Jimmy said, basically game 3 is must win, right? It's a long flight back to Florida if you split here, but you got to win game 3, and then hopefully you can get, hopefully they can get a win in game 2 and then go back, or in game 4, sorry, and go back 2-2. But I mean, it starts tomorrow, and they can't get caught up in the extracurriculars.
But I know a lot of people talk about, okay, well, Florida did their job, so the Oilers just got to win their 2 home games. But it's such a different mindset when you start 1-2, because when you go into game 1, there's no sense of like, we have to win these first 2 games, right? You go play them. The series is 0-0 going into those games. It's very different when you go for 3-4 and be like, wow, now we have no choice but to win both.
Yeah, especially oh no, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, like, not only you have to win game 3, but then you're like, great, now we can't go down 3-1.
Yeah,
right. So there's a lot of, and do I think the Oilers have it in them? For sure, they've faced enough adversity to do it. I just think, and when it goes back to sort of, if someone wanted to counter and say, well, the Oilers can play physical too. Every team in the NHL can play physical. The difference is I think the Oilers are much better when they're just playing that back and forth transition speed skill game. Florida, it's in them. Like it's literally their identity.
It's how they were built, right?
Hockey. Yeah, low event, back alley hockey. That's what they want to play. They don't want to play a speed skill game. So we talked about the contrasting styles. The Oilers are going to have to impose their game and force Florida into doing it. And it's going to take composure. It's going to take, like you said, getting in between the dots, winning all the races, and making Florida chase them, right? Because then it goes into penalties, and then you get on that power play. At some point, a power play that's running at 37% going into the series is going to score. We saw it with Dallas. And the Florida power play, to be honest, it's not good. It's not impressive. They don't have a quarterback back there that can run it like Bouchard. They don't have a bomb back there. I'd like to see Ekman-Larsson on there a little more. They run sort of the 4 forwards and Montour. I think I really would rather have Ekman-Larsson. I think he's a better puck mover and distributor, a little more offensive creativity than Montour. But so I guess we'll see from that aspect. But yeah, is there anything you want to add to that, Nick?
And we have seen that too. We have seen that with the Oilers against Dallas. Like they won them. Did anybody see them beating Dallas 3 in a row?
No,
not at all. Right?
I thought when they went up 2-0 in game 3, and I thought Dallas is going to lock this down. When the Oilers won that game, I remember we were talking. I said, "Uh-oh, like they're for real. They're for real." And they are. I mean, they're here for a reason, right? And I know a lot of people, every time the Oilers start to struggle, they start hearing whispers of it's the same old from this team. Too much skill, not enough will. Is Skinner good enough? Nurse is no good. Like you just start hearing all the different stuff. I don't even know if that phases them anymore. I think you look at McDavid, he looks like he's aged 25 years. Like since being here, and I think we're gonna get their best in 3, because if they don't do it after game 3, then we'll know 2 things: they weren't the better team, or they're out of gas.
Yeah, and
if they get it done it's a new series.
You just mentioned about Nurse and him kind of being a whipping boy around here. Um, I was going to ask Nick this question. If Nurse can't go tomorrow night, is that going to be a loss for the Oilers?
Yes. I can. I mean, because you replaced CC with Bayarne in game two, so then you're going to have to replace Nurse with CC. And I mean, CC, whatever, he's played 19 to 20 games in the playoffs, so it's not like he's been a regular. But I mean, Darnell Nurse is, for as much as people want to pick on him and get mad at him, and I know I've made jokes about his minus 15 in the playoffs, and his was Sam Reinhart's dad owns the record, and Paul Reinhart's in the stands waiting to see watch his kid win the cup, or maybe watch Darnell Nurse break his playoff minus record, whatever. But I mean, he's an important part of the team, and he's part of the leadership group. He's big, he's strong, he's mobile. Like, they need him. If he can't play tomorrow, that's a huge hole that I don't think Cody Ceci fills. Because he can also play minutes. Like, you look the other night, like Bouchard was over 30. Ekholm, I think, was at 26, maybe somewhere in there. And everybody else was kind of in the teens. Like, they need another guy that can play, that can chew up some minutes. And, Nurse can do that. I've been actually really impressed with Broberg, but if the bottom four defensemen is Broberg, CC, Desharnais, and Kulak, that's a tough bottom four, because those guys got to play. That's tough. That's tough against what Florida can bring offensively. It's tough to defend those guys with that group.
And I'll add to that. You can talk about playing Bouchard more, but the issue is the Oilers, in a way, shelter Bouchard by giving him the majority of offensive zone starts. If you go look at the analytics, he gets a high percentage of offensive zone faceoffs and starts with Ekholm, because typically they play a majority of the time with the top lines, which is fair. Nurse takes all the D zone stuff, so he's already starting from his own end. If you look at and he's playing with, a lot of times he's not playing with the top guys, so on ice shooting percentage is not high, and in turn, when Darnell Nurse is on the ice, Skinner's not saving pucks. So I don't know if you want to correlate to that he's giving up bigger chances, but what they're asking Nurse to do is they're asking him to do quite a lot. And I don't think fans really understand how hard it is to have the majority of your starts in the D zone. Not only that, but you don't get guys who typically have great shooting percentages who are going to be going out there and giving you run support. So you're constantly having to defend. It's almost like I'm waiting to get scored on. And criticism fair of Nurse, but he's at this point right now, he's a third pairing defenseman that's being deployed like a second pair, first pair shutdown D. So,
and he's eating up minutes, right?
Right. So if you're going to give more minutes to Bouchard, now who's going to be starting? Who's going to be putting? Bouchard's going to be in those defensive zone starts. He's going to get more starts away from McDavid, because McDavid's line doesn't really take a lot of D zone draws, right? There are a lot of neutral zone and offensive zone, which is how you should do it, because you want to get your best offensive players starting there. But there's like little things like that I don't think people sort of realize about that. And when you look at sort of Florida's D, the minutes aren't much different, but their pairs will be deployed fairly spread out amongst the zone starts. They have no problem starting any pair in any zone. And over the course of a series, it makes a big difference, right? If you don't have to keep coming out of your zone shift after shift, and you're taking hit after hit after hit. And you can see he's banged up, right? Like, there seems to be a hip issue, they don't even know if he's going to play. And if he does play, like, what kind of condition is he going to be in? Do they dress 11 and 7 and then McDavid plays 25 minutes? And then what does that do as you go forward? You're playing at least 6 if the Oilers are winning the cup, right? It's 6 minimum. So there's some concern there. But
if Kane doesn't play tomorrow, I don't think they can go 11 and 7. because they're saying they're not sure if he's going to play. So if he comes out, I don't know if you can go 11-7. I think you got to go 12-6.
So who would you put in
For what do you mean?
to replace Kane if Kane
Oh,
can't go?
I know who you're
mean,
thinking, Jimmy.
I think you
You know
probably
who's
have.
that?
Are you thinking Gagne?
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely. There is a guy who bleeds blue and orange.
Yeah, but he hasn't played in 2 months.
Who exactly? Get him in there. He's fresh.
But look what
You
happened last
imagine-
time he came in. Remember when he came in?
Yeah.
No,
He
I
blew
don't.
the house. He scored 2 goals, didn't he?
Yeah, he blew the roof off of Rogers Place, man.
My
Oh,
son was
God.
at that game. My son was you know what? At this point, who else are you going to put in that's really going to move the needle?
Jack
Well,
Campbell.
Perry. Did Perry play last game? I don't even remember. Did he play in game 2 or did they take him out?
The fact that we can't remember who played last game tells us a lot. But I would put Gagne in at home. He's loved in the room. You're going to get every ounce of whatever he has left in the tank out of him every shift. Like he's going to be raring to go. I don't think it's a bad play at all. I would put Sam Gagne in it. And not only that, but if your team comes back, he gets his name on the cup.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like I don't see the risk in putting Sam Gagne in the lineup at this point.
I
Perry
mean,
didn't play.
The risk
Perry
for me
did
is
not
that
play.
he hasn't played. Perry didn't play.
No, he
So,
didn't.
For me, based on what I said about how the Oilers, what they need to do to get back in this series, they need Perry in the lineup because he's big and he can get to the middle of the ice. Not fast, but he can get there. And they need, especially if Kane isn't playing, they need Corey Perry's edge. They need somebody that's gonna, bring a little bit of that, whatever, if you want to call it swagger, or just a little bit of that grit to this game. They need that at this point. They need somebody like that, and Kane's clearly hurt. Like he's got the hernia or whatever. He's playing through that, so he hasn't been as effective on the physical game as maybe he was in the past. They need somebody, and to me, it's Perry's got to be the guy.
I mean, I'm not opposed to Perry, but I don't think he's been overly impressive.
No,
Like,
but
I
I mean,
don't-
like I said, he's played, like Gagne hasn't played in 2 months. It's a hard spot to put a guy in 2 months. Game three, the Stanley Cup final that you need to win. That's a lot of pressure on a guy.
Okay, so not the same thing, and I'm gonna say this because it's definitely not the same thing. But Philip Broberg went in, and he hadn't played in a long time, and he looked like he had been playing all year.
But Philip Broberg is 23 years old, and he could skate, and so he was always going to be okay. And I think they're learning now that they probably should have played him more this year because, I mean, for me, since he's played 5 games, in those 5 games, he's been their, third best defenseman. Maybe they should have played him more this year, but they can't figure that out now. But I mean, like I said, because Broberg's such a good skater and because he can move the puck, like to me, putting him in made more sense at that time than putting Gagne in now, who's he's not fast. He's loved, sure. He's a fan favorite, great. But I don't know if he's moving the needle at this point.
Nick doesn't believe in fairy
situation.
tales, Jimmy.
No,
Well,
Nick doesn't.
Did you not see Matt Rempe score the opening goal at MSG against the Caps? That was all vibes.
Well, it was, but Rempe's also, he's a different guy though, too, right?
Yeah.
Like when he's like Gagne coming in, you're expecting him to probably do something offensively, right? Rempe, you're just hoping Rempe doesn't get suspended again. So when he comes in and scores a goal,
he did.
but when he comes in and scores a goal, it's huge. But I mean, like with Gagne, like I don't see any way that he's going to be that big of a needle mover for them.
I just think it would be energy for that team. They need as much energy as they can get. I agree with everything you're saying. Like you're not saying anything. You're probably way more reasonable than what I'm sounding right now. 100%. Like there's no, I will not refute anything you've said. I just think that sometimes you just got to go with some vibes. And, I can't even tell you. I looked at a little bit of Gagne's season in the small little sample size. His analytics are, his Corsi and Fenwick and stuff are still up slightly above 50, so he wasn't hurting them. He didn't put up the offensive production. Obviously, he's not maybe going to do that. But I'm just picturing him, dumping the puck in and just hitting one of the guys in that building, just going nuts. And then I could
But
see them
then,
chanting his name.
but then, what are the fans going to do when if he did nothing, and then it's going to be like, well, they should have put Perry in.
Well, they're gonna say they should have put Gagne in if they lose game two
Yeah,
with
you're
Perry.
right.
That doesn't matter. Obviously, Knoblauch knows what he's doing. He seems like he's the type of coach that's not afraid to make any kind of move, and he's got a really good pulse. He's moved things around. He doesn't wait for it to get stale. He's decisive. I think he's done a good job. It's just, these are two fantastic teams that are left, and I just want to see it. I want to see Gagne there, maybe from a fan perspective. And, I'm going to laugh if he plays and scores a goal. I'm going to be in
Oh,
our
yeah.
group chat. I think it'd just be fun. I think it'd be absolutely hilarious. Like just some random greasy goal by Sam Gagne. The Oilers.
It would be awesome too, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Let's move on here a little bit. I wanted your thoughts. Sorry, we're gonna go back to. I wanted your thoughts on that Warren Fogle major, Jimmy, and then right after that, Nick, I'm gonna get you to weigh in on the Draisaitl hit on Barkov. So, Jimmy, go ahead first.
Okay. So, happens originally. Our group chat starts chatting. I was like, okay, he's getting a major. Yeah, I think you were listening on the radio, right, Phil? So you were asking us about it?
Yeah. I was like, what happened? Because I'm listening to Jack and Bob, and Jack and Bob are like, it was they were making comments about that he never left his like Fogel never left his path, and they just kind of collided. And then like
Mhm.
I see like Twitter blowing up that it was a dirty play. I'm getting messages, dirty play, dirty hit, and then I asked you guys what happened.
So my initial thought was the 5 minute major was the correct call. But here's the problem with this kind of stuff and social media and getting instant reaction is, after some time after looking at it more and sort of sleeping on it, or just a couple hours down the road, I kind of changed my thought. I felt that 2 minutes was the right call. And the only reason being was, yes, he basically caught himself flat-footed and Listerinen changed direction, and he went to hit him, and he went forward, but his shoulders were not like, he didn't go in shoulder first. He kind of went in like chest first and drove in with the knee into the upper thigh and caught him. And because I felt like the knee was going north south and he didn't extend it sort of east west to catch him, I felt like I kind of went back on it and said, I think 2 minutes is fine. The refs did a review. They did a quick review. I think it was like 7 seconds. They checked and said, no, it's a major. Now, I don't know the exact rule on how you call it a major or not, but just from
Don't
me
they
looking
don't
at
they
the
just
fact,
review every major, and that's all they were doing? Their due
well,
diligence?
they were reviewing for a major. I don't know what constitutes a major in a knee situation, but because I felt like he didn't move his knee out to clip him and kind of just drove it straight through, I felt like 2 would have been fine. But I guess they went with the major, so that's kind of my thought. I think 2 minutes would have been fine. I don't think a
And I've
major.
seen an angle too where I don't even think they went knee on knee.
Well, they didn't. They went knee. It was knee on like thigh. I think, and then they. I don't believe that it was some sell job by Luosterainen, because if he catches him on the upper thigh, and if you ever had one of them Charlie horses, like it feels like
Yeah,
pain, but
that
you
hurts.
you you walk it off or you skate it off, and you can get back out fairly quick. But the initial sharp pain of it is actually quite painful. So that's sort of what I thought on that.
And now, Nick, I want you to talk about um, how big of a play that Draisaitl hit on Barkov could be for this series.
Well, I mean, it should have been a big play for game two. At that time, it was only 2-1. And there was 10 minutes left in the game, and Florida was about to lose their best player. And, like, full credit to, and this is off topic a little bit, but full credit to Anton Lundell, who I thought in that last 10 minutes, they call him Baby Barkov. He lived up to that. He was really good in the last 10. He made the prime. He had the primary assist on the Rodriguez goal right at the tail end of that Draisaitl penalty, and he blew the doors past Bush and got around him and made the nice play to the middle. But I mean, the hit itself, like when I saw it, Barkov 6'3", Leon's whatever 6'2" or 6'3". They're pretty close. I thought Draisaitl left his feet. His hands got he got a roughing call. I kind of thought his elbow hit him in the face. That's how it looked to me. Whether he should have been suspended or not, I don't know. I'm not involved in those things. We talked about it before we came online. I would have liked to see an explanation. Like, I think whether it's Department of Player Safety or the war room or whatever they call it in Toronto when there's goals disallowed or for goalie interference or whatever, I would like to see whether it's the next day or later that night, I would like to see a full review from the league as to why those plays went the way that they did, because every fan, even players, coaches, they all complain that there's no transparency. Well, we don't know what goalie interference is. We don't know if this is a suspendable play or not. This is an opportunity. There'd be an opportunity for the league to actually discuss why it was a goal, why it wasn't a goal, why the Draisaitl play wasn't a fine or wasn't a suspension. I mean, they didn't suspend him, they didn't suspend him, whatever. I would like to know why. And I think Jimmy, you said it was because Peros had said it wasn't. There was no intent to injure, and there wasn't enough force. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
But you can break that down in a video and explain why, because like even the penalty was roughing, but the call probably should have either been elbowing or charging, and there wasn't even a penalty to begin with. They weren't even going to call it. They weren't going to call anything. Mm-hmm. And then they huddled while the trainer was out with Barkov. They huddled and then came up with roughing, which was probably the third option of what it should have been. So I would just like a little bit of transparency. Like I said, I don't care that they didn't suspend him. Like, it's not my job, but I would like to have a better understanding why, so that, because for me, if the principal point of contact is the head, that seems to have been something that the league is trying to get out of the game. And that play to me it looked to me like the principal point of contact was the head, and Draisaitl left his feet. So I just would like a real explanation from the league, not through an insider, as to why they chose not to fine him or suspend him.
And you just explained that a lot better than the league did. So, but you're right. Like, this is all they have to do, right? Even a quick tweet, a quick social media message, right?
Yeah, and like I mentioned before we came on, the Euro 2024 is this week, and UEFA came out and said, only captains can talk to the refs, and for any VAR decision, there's going to be a detailed breakdown that's put on the scoreboard inside the stadium for the fans in the stadium, and it's going to be the detailed explanation for what the VAR call is going to be given to the fans watching the game. Like, I'm not saying the NHL has to do that in game, because that's a lot, but you can do it after the game. Right? Explain why you made these decisions, because really it helps fans better understand what's going on, because not every fan knows every single piece of the rule book, right? Like, there's stuff that happens that I'm sure I didn't know was a rule, but you can, if you have that explanation, then you're educating your fan base as well.
And like, I even go, like, I think about watching games, and you even get like broadcasters who, like, what's their job? They watch hockey games and they call hockey games, and half the time they don't even know what's what.
No, and that's why all those, they have they'll have refs, like they'll have ex refs that come on and they'll explain the call. Like, I watched the ESPN broadcast the other night for game 2 because I've over Sportsnet. And I can't remember who the guy that they had on, but he was perfectly normal in how he was explaining stuff. And they were asking him about the rules, and he was explaining it, and it was great. It was awesome. And
Dave
I appreciated that. That's who it was. Hey, yeah, he was really good.
He's
And
amazing. He's on all the time with them.
yeah, so I thought that was awesome. But it'd be nice if it didn't have to come from a broadcaster who worked in the league before, but actually from the league.
Well, and I think that there's another point that I think we could touch on as well is think about this. We're games 1 and 2, like into the Stanley Cup Finals, and the talk between 3 and 4 was officiating, right? Because everyone's arguing. You got 90 different voices arguing their interpretation of the rule, and nobody's talking about what we should be talking about is two fantastic hockey teams playing hockey.
Yeah,
But instead,
exactly.
well, your player hit ours in the face, and your player tripped ours, and your player choked my player out, and it's like, okay, like then yeah, I agree. Like we should have the league come on and say this is why we called things. And if they want to debate that, like that would squash probably 80% of debates. This is what the league said, and then nobody's sitting there speculating. You don't have this, insider analyst doing this and this and that. And it's just like I feel like sometimes the NHL is just they want to keep people in the dark and they just want you to go to games and purchase the merchandise, right?
Yep.
They very undervalue or there's a very big, I feel like, disconnect between Batman and the fans and what they actually want. And they just, and there's always this narrative about like how there's the rules and then there's another set of rules within the rules where, the officials don't enforce the actual rules. Instead, they manage the game. And it seems like they haven't been able to cross over from that sort of old school, they're doing a better job. Like, when we had the clutch and grab and dead puck era and, they have made some progression there, but there's always that sort of part of like, we're going to manage the game. We don't want to decide the game rather than call the rules. We don't want to suspend Leon Draisaitl because we don't want to have an influence on how this goes. And I said it too. If Barkov had done the same thing to Draisaitl, I don't think they would have suspended Barkov. If it was Warren Foegele hitting Barkov, he's gone for 2. That's the reality. You see it all the time. Matt Rempe. I mean, his suspensions are warranted, but if it's not Matt Rempe, right? Like,
well, you could even say like if Sam Bennett did that to Draisaitl in this series.
Well, but then you look at what Sam Bennett did to Marchand, and he never got suspended in that series. Yeah. Like he sucker punched him really in that play.
He's too important of a player that they would suspend him. You see what Bennett did to Bouchard, right?
Yeah, it was very similar to the Foegele hit.
They call a trip. I mean, they can't review a trip for a major. I can't believe I had to explain that to some people, but then it's because Foegele does it, right? Like, They have no problem kicking Warren Foegele out of the game. Doesn't matter. He doesn't move the needle, and then they can say, "Look at us, we're enforcing the rules." Yeah. I'll tell you, the star players will get away with it. And if you're a third liner and you do something to somebody in the top 6, see ya. You're out of here. That's how the NHL operates. They don't enforce their rules the same for everyone else. So that's just, we know that, and you'll see it. And if you just know that, then if you're a fan of either team, then just live with it. You're going to get calls against you, bad ones, and you're going to get calls for you, good ones, right? Like I watched the Rangers all series. There was some really bad calls against the Rangers. Jimmy Vesey separated his shoulder because Lomberg decided to, steamroll him. But then I also watched Ryan Lindgren, or I watched Lafreniere bury Faravarvi from behind and then go in and score a goal. It just goes both ways.
You win some, you lose some, right?
That's just the way it is. And sometimes it sucks being on the end of that. And for the Oilers, maybe they feel like that right now they're on the other end of it in a pretty big series. But, Carrick's spearing guys in the junk and Ekblad's choking people out and Draisaitl's elbowing people in the face and Bennett takes out a knee. Like, this is the finals. Like, sorry. But
remember Keegan Colasar last year when he caved in Matt Tkachuk's sternum. Like, that's just how it goes in this series. Like, stuff's going to happen.
Yeah. You just don't stress about it anymore. Just enjoy the fact that you're in the finals. I look at Twitter with the Oiler fans, or X, what do you want to call it? And it's just, man, they just look miserable. I've never seen a fan base, or, even the Panthers fan base to an extent, although they don't have a heavy presence online. It's just like, enjoy it. Guys, you're there. I was in the conference final. I got booted. You guys didn't even get to the dance, right? Flyers, Flames. Like, enjoy this because you don't know when it's coming again. Look at '06,
Yeah.
right? How many years
06,
later?
it's 18 years ago. Like I
Yeah.
remember this city, like it's funny because like back then obviously social media wasn't really a thing and people just
No.
went out and they just congregated outside with the Blue Mile at White Ave because Rogers, you weren't going to party at the Coliseum Inn by Rexall. So, you go to
Firestone Grill.
you go to everybody's at the Blue Mile, and win or lose, everybody had a blast because like your favorite song there, Phil. You never know when your chance is gonna come again, right?
Yeah, chance may never come
And
again, boys.
but
Yeah.
I think now, with social media, it's kind of changed fandom because you get so caught up in the negativity that it's hard to get yourself out of that cloud and realize like this is a really neat opportunity that very, very few fan bases actually get to be a part of and to enjoy.
Well, and they're not in. I just feel like there's a large demographic of people who are not enjoying it.
And
Like
it's
something bad
sad.
happens, so I'm gonna angry type on my phone, and then I'm gonna get 100 other people telling me I'm an idiot, and then I'm gonna get more angry, and then it's just like, I miss the days where you'd get a tough loss, you call up a buddy, and I even tweeted this. You call up a buddy, you vent for a bit, and you go, "Oh, damn, this sucked, or that sucked, or we could have had this chance." You go to sleep, you sleep it off, you wake up, converse with some friends, and you get that time to decompress. But now you got
Yeah.
this device in front of you. You got people messaging you, ha ha ha, your team sucks. You're mad about something. And it's just trolling back and forth. And by the end of it, you're gonna see this time go by, a time in which you should have been enjoying. Even if you lose, think about all the memories and the awesome ups and downs and the emotional grind of it all to get to this spot. Because if the Oilers lose, they have nothing to be like, yeah, obviously you're sad because you want to win the cup, but like you should be proud of your team. You're one of
Oh,
the last two
absolutely.
teams standing. And if the Panthers blow this and the Oilers win the cup, your team went back to back and gave it all they got.
Yep.
I know it's hard to say that when you don't have a horse in the race, but I mean, God, get off your phones, watch the game, and just live. Just live it. Just enjoy. Be in the moment.
Oh yeah. Like for
That's
2010 when the Flyers played Chicago, that like all I can remember is how sad I was when Patrick Kane scored the overtime winner in Game 6. And I wish that I had, when that series was over, that I had taken some time to actually enjoy it because we're 14 years later now and the Flyers haven't even been close again.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, like, the fact that the only thing I can remember is the most negative part of that series as a Flyers fan. And it's like, and now I'm just like, man, like, why didn't I enjoy it more when it was happening? Because like it sucks. It sucks not being a part of it. Like Bill, I mean, the Flames haven't made the playoffs here. They've only made the playoffs a few times recently. Like it sucks.
Yeah, and
Hockey's like
especially like when your team's on the up and up and it just kind of crumbles and I'm sitting here and I haven't watched a Flames game in almost 2 months.
yeah,
And yeah, you guys are still watching hockey and it's exciting hockey and it's fun hockey and it's very, 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 very important hockey.
yeah, and hockey that matters to you, right? Like your team is legitimately still playing. Like
When's the last time the Flyers played an important meaningful game?
Game 6 in 2010. That was the last
Exactly, right?
time, like 14 years ago.
Well, I'd like to say the night Carcillo scored the game winner for the Rangers back in whatever year that was. That was a wild series too. I mean, I poor Ray Emery. He had to rest his soul, but he had really bad hips at the time, and just I felt bad for him in that series.
Yeah.
So, but no, I look at it as well. Like I'm at the point in my life now. I'm 41 years old, and I said to myself, like, obviously President's Trophy winners and coming in, there were high expectations on the Rangers, and I said, I just want to enjoy myself, right? Like I just want to enjoy, and if we don't make it, we don't make it, and I don't care at this point. I just want one, just one, one more, just one as an adult, and I will never complain again. I
But
will.
I will never
Yeah.
see a Flyers Stanley Cup. There's 0% chance. So 0.
I like the hope we have.
Yeah. Talking about not being negative, right? So
yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
exactly.
never see it come. But I think we're not. I think we're okay, right? Like we're, I guess obviously not being in it and being this close, and for the Oilers, they draft Connor McDavid, and with the vision that this is the guy that's gonna bring the Stanley Cup home, and they're 9 years in, and there's been bumps in the road, and questions about how the team is constructed, and some disappointing exits out of the playoffs, and now they're here and they're down to nothing, and there's this sense of like they so badly want this to be it, because moving forward, next year they'll still be good, and I think they'll be good regardless. But when the caps, the salary structure starts to change, I don't want to say that it's not going to be easier, but it's definitely going to get more complicated to try and put a winning team on the ice. It always does when you have to start paying your guys what they're worth.
Yeah.
You win the Stanley Cup by having players playing above what they're worth.
right.
Okay,
Anyway,
I got a
so
question for you guys.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so they talked about this on The Point on NHL Network Radio the other day. I think it was yesterday. Okay, so I'm adjusting it a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
So $100. If somebody gives you $100 and you have to bet you have to pick one dead even odds, Florida sweeps or Edmonton wins the cup. What are you putting your $100 on?
Whew. That's a doozy. It's one or the other.
Yeah, you bet on one.
Phil.
I'd probably say Florida sweep.
Oh,
And Oiler fans, don't attack me for saying that.
you're
I
gonna
was
get
forced.
attacked. I might have to go the other way just so I don't get canceled. So
Well, I'm probably gonna get like Tanya Harding in the knee here for coming around a corner.
oh my gosh, Florida sweeps. Well, okay. Probability wise, there's a high percentage chance, like who could win two good teams. One has to win 2 in a row. The other has to win 4.
Yep.
So logic tells me Florida. But
Okay.
Edmonton does weird stuff all the time, like go winning 16 games in a row. I would have bet my life that they wouldn't have won 16 in a row. So, let's go. Let's do Oilers. Gagne back in the lineup. 4 straight. I think, yeah, I'll go opposite. I'd say Oilers win 4. Yeah, it's $100. Who cares? I burn it anyway.
What's another drop in the bucket of debt, hey,
Yeah.
bud?
Exactly, right? It's a tank of gas right there. So, I'll go Edmonton 4 straight if they put Gagne in the lineup.
No, it's not 4 straight. They just
It's not
gotta win
4
the cup.
straight. Like this winning the cup.
Oh, they just
yeah.
got to win.
They
Oh,
just-
okay. Well,
so Florida sweep or Edmonton win the cup.
sure. I'll go Edmonton win the cup. I think the
picked that
sweeps.
too.
I think the sweeps extremely hard.
I agree.
Yeah, especially with two in Edmonton.
Okay, well, all the chatting and talking is over. Games 1 and 2 are behind us. Game 3 tomorrow night, right here in our home city of Edmonton. Nick, who you got tomorrow night?
Edmonton. I think they're finally gonna figure out a way to get some pucks past Bobrovsky, and I think they're gonna come out. I think Florida's seen their best, but I don't know if Florida's gonna be able to, especially because they're getting in late tonight because of the storm down in Florida. I think Edmonton's gonna win tomorrow.
Jimmy?
Yeah, I think so too. I just, the amount of posts they've hit, the power play's gone dry. They seem to, when it looks like they're down and out and they're right on the verge of being in nuclear trouble, they'll pull out a victory. And so, yeah, I think on home ice, the energy, I think that first 10 minutes, I think they come out buzzing, and I think they'll get momentum off it. I think it'll be a close game. I think Florida's going to obviously. I think my sense is that it'll split, but I'm going to say Edmonton wins tomorrow.
I better, I usually would say the opposite of you guys just to be a little bit different, but to save my knees from getting bashed in, I'll also agree and say Edmonton's gonna come out hot tomorrow and win.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
so
a safe bet. Yeah.
yeah, that's did you guys want to talk Laine real quick?
Nick, you want to touch
Well,
on
yeah,
start
Nick,
there?
I
apparently
mean,
so Laine has asked for a trade apparently.
is anybody surprised? Like, let's be honest. Like I know, like it was Dubois kind of drove the initial trade, and Line, they were gonna have Winnipeg was gonna have to give up something to get something, and I don't know if Laine was really happy in Winnipeg, but like, is anybody really surprised that he wants out of Columbus? Like he hasn't. I think he's got 64 goals in the 4 seasons he's been there. Like he hasn't done a whole lot,
Oh, ask
and
Johnny Gaudreau. Columbus is an amazing city and a great place to
yeah.
play.
Well, and it's like it kind of set up great for Laine when Gaudreau went there, because you could think you'd imagine him feeding him the puck, but it's just never come to fruition. And I mean, it just doesn't surprise me. Laine, I mean, he seems like a guy that would thrive in a big market. I think he likes the spotlight, and I don't know if Columbus gives him the exposure that he really wants. That's just my conjecture of him, but I mean, there's somewhere in there's a 40 goal player, because he started out his career scoring 30 and 40 goals when he was in Winnipeg. So wherever he ends up going, as long as I know he's in the player assistance program, if all that stuff gets sorted out, wherever he ends up going, he's probably going to be really good. And I would look for him to have a major bounce back season next year.
Give me any more thoughts on Laine?
I just think he's got to go to a stable organization. Not to say Columbus isn't stable. I think they got some, obviously I have a ton of respect for John Davison. I think he is a very smart guy and kind of knows what he's doing. They've had some tough things happen. Obviously, Babcock didn't work out. And then Pascal Vincent came in, and I think I was pretty hard on Pascal Vincent. I didn't think he was the right guy to handle some of the superstars that they have there. Like he kind of tried to run it like towards 2.0, but without the pedigree. And then like the situation in Winnipeg, right? Like I think there were some issues there, and players got moved out, and there was an opportunity to move Laine for what looked like was going to be fair value for Dubois, who was it also, was in it was more Dubois, like Nick said, right? And yeah, I think wherever he goes, it's got to be a stable organization. It's got to be an organization that's strong, with a strong locker room that's going to just allow him. They're going to have to allow him to be the player he is, and he's a one-shot sniper, and he's probably got to get in the gym a bit. He's got to work a little bit harder in the off season, so he comes in. I didn't think the last couple of years he's in very good shape. He obviously wasn't. You could tell, like in his first couple of years when he was scoring, he seemed to have a little more jump in his step, and I don't think that acceleration's quite there right now. And we'll see. Like if he puts the work in and goes to a stable organization, he'll bounce back. But if not, then I think his career will fizzle out pretty quickly.
Let's be
Hey,
honest, he's
really?
going to look really good in Vegas next year.
Oh man, alongside Mitch Marner. Yeah.
I was just gonna say before we go here, who needs him in the NHL?
Everybody needs a scoring winger.
Yeah, well, the New York Rangers desperately need a right winger. How I don't, I mentioned that he'd be worth the risk.
You know where you might not want. He would probably look pretty good in New Jersey. Him and Jack Hughes, I think, would have a good connection, because Hughes would push his pace too. He'd make him skate.
I would say more than New Jersey, maybe the Islanders.
Yeah, but they don't like to score goals. They just like to
No,
prevent goals.
that would be a disastrous fit, I think, in the Islanders. Vancouver, maybe
Yeah,
along
Vancouver
Elias
needs
Pettersson.
wingers.
Although I don't know if you want to be in that media spotlight.
Laine for Hronik.
Carolina. I think Rod would really be someone that could take care of him, and that's another guy who could put the puck in the net. Yeah, there's a lot of situations. Edmonton, right? I just don't see that being working with the money, but the premium for right wingers who can score at that rate is there's not many.
How about
Left
Dallas?
wing?
Because Pavelski's gone. Pavelski's retiring. What if he went to
Yep.
Dallas and played with Robertson and Hintz?
Yeah, that would work. Yeah. Calgary? Like,
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, again, they're retooling, right? Like he's only 26. So he's coming into those prime years now.
Yep.
But I think it's anyone who's kind of it's got to be a stable franchise that can just plug him in, and like a situation where Kessel went to Pittsburgh, like it was just the right fit.
Yep.
You know, where he was in Toronto versus what it was kind of like that third guy, fourth guy maybe on that team. I don't think he can be the guy, but if he can, Tampa, right? Like he could
Well, they got
slot
to
in.
try and get. I think they got to try and get Stamkos
Right,
under contract.
yeah. But I'm saying, like, in terms, if I'm looking at just like a situation like that where there's 3 or 4 strong leaders who are their best players.
Yeah. Well, then what, Dallas could work then, because they got good guys in the back end, right? Like they got Heiskanen, and then up front, they got Hintz, and they got Robertson, and they got Ben, and they got Sagan. Like there's guys there that who probably wouldn't have to be relied on as much, right? They got younger guys like Wyatt Johnson and Logan Stankoven. Like that might be a good group for him to go to.
Yeah, could rejuvenate him, right? He's just got to go. He's just wherever he goes. It's just like I said. It's just got to be stable.
Yeah, no,
on and off the ice.
Yeah,
so.
And we obviously wish all these players the best, like wherever they end up, and even coming up free agency, same there. And and then we got the draft coming up too, and a lot of young kids going to some NHL teams. So yeah, we're going to be covering all of that stuff here coming up after the Stanley Cup Finals is done. We got free agency, we got the draft, and all that good stuff. We're working on some more guests to come on. Nick, Jimmy, it's been a pleasure tonight. It's been fun. You guys know where to find us on wherever you get all your podcasts, Spotify, Apple. We're on Facebook. We are on X. We are on YouTube. Thank you guys all for listening and putting up with our takes. Any final thoughts, boys?
Just enjoy games 3 and 4. That's all I'm going to say.
That's what I was going to say. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy it. Yeah.
All right. So signing off for tonight, and we will see you guys after game 4. All you Oiler fans hoping we're still talking hockey and not talking about a new Stanley Cup champion, because I know it might hurt to see Matthew Tkachuk raise that cup in the middle of Rogers Place. So
Phil's getting kneecapped.
Yeah, I'm getting kneecapped for sure. So again, thanks for listening, and we will catch you guys after game 4.